Hello, my friends. This is Mazammel Gurma with another book in the series of Pan African book reviews. This book has been suggested to me by Tariq Abbas, a friend living in the United States, and know that this book will be my first book to be reviewed, written by an African American. I was reviewing those from the continent of Africa before. So the book, by the way, I know it's suggested to me by, or books by this writer have been suggested to me recently, but I read about it, about the writer from a book, an introduction to a book of poetry written by not Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey's book of poetry has been translated into Amharic, and in the introduction part, Ali Shumome, the translator, has given a few points on the struggle of African Americans, so he mentioned Dubois. So, without further ado, let me just mention it. The book is The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, a must read for Black people, published in 1903. But the 14 also articles, sociological articles, biographical articles, creative articles have been they had been published elsewhere in newspapers, magazines, and so it took him a few years to collect them and to pen them. So Dubois, born in 1868 in America, in the United States, has written and he's the first PhD holder, African American. So imagine how it will be critical for us to know about him. So imagine how the first African American PhD holder would envision the fate of the black race and would assess the then situation of African Americans. So in the foreword to the edition of the book that I am reading, it says this book has a formative influence on the entire tradition of African American writing, and it's a definitive text of African American literary tradition. So it's critical, it's very useful. I know we'll be reviewing other books written thereabouts, including Ethiopia Unbound, which were written like early on so that they had influence on later post-colonial or even colonial periods of African American or African writing. So this is a critical one. It has influenced a lot of writers. So it's the political Bible of the Negro race. I'm reading from the foreword. The first African American to receive a PhD from Harvard in 1895. Harvard. This will talk about the colleges and universities in America, in the North and South, and which are for whites and for Negroes or blacks. And this has been covered in the Talented 10th in the chapter, also other chapters dealing with higher education of the African Americans. At the beginning, next to the forward, there is the chronology of Dubois. So, where was he was born, what he did, how he led, his family background, and his parents died, and all up to his immigration to Ghana, invited by Kwame Nkrumah, President Kwame Nkrumah, whose book I reviewed earlier on. You can check it, Neo-Colonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. Very critical book. So he invited him to Ghana, and Dubois became a Ghanaian citizen, and then he died there in Ghana at 91. So it's not just books, writing books, sharing ideas, and so on, but these writers, earlier thinkers, had personal encounters. they try to shape the future of the black race. We say Menelik, we say Toussaint, we say certain leaders from the New World or from Africa proper. So all these had Pan African alliances. The Pan African Conference, Dubai was part of it. And they had action. We are not just talking about theory or talk only. So the chronology of Dubai is very critical. So you learn how, where he was educated, what he did, where, and so on. So I think you get a certain important points from the chronology. Then there is the body part, and afterwards the appendix part, and self-review that Dubois wrote on the 15th year of publication of the book. So this is the introductory part. Afterwards, the souls of black folk, of our spiritual strivings, the first part. Our double identity. Am I Negro? Am I black? Am I American? So the question in the mind of the 20th century Negro, that 20th century is a century in which this issue predominates, according to the writer. So this race problem predominates according to him. There is Marxism, there is civil rights movement, there is all of, but the race issue, the civil rights movement, the question of the African Americans predominates in the 20th century, and the reality is that up to the time of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, if you like. Of the dawn of freedom, this part, the Civil War, it tells you, American history starting from British settlement, the slave trade, immigration of different people to North America, the American Civil War, the proclamation of the Constitution, all these part of American history, timeline of American history, we should know, and then that will help us to analyze. The Maroon communities started by runaway slaves, where they sought their freedom and then won it by their blood and sweat. So up to Haiti and the founding of the first black government by winning the French colonial powers, and a lot of points to raise. So it requires a lot of reading. Just reading one book and talking about it, that should not be the issue. I'm doing that, but I will improve it through time. So all this freedom and the freedman's fate. Okay, you are free. You are set free. Abolition of slave trade. You are free. Then what happened after that? A lot of questions. Blacks are free, but what amenities have been there for their lives? Are there colleges to learn? Can they lead themselves? Are they living in equitable lives and situations in their country? So all these are raised. So freedom has its own questions. General Howard, after whom Howard University has been named, his story was raised. All these amendments, American Constitution's amendments, including the abolition of slave trade, and there was a bureau, even an office that decided the fate of black people. So the government set aside an office where they decide the fate of black people. So it's questionable. It's questionable whether black people had, African Americans had the opportunities to work, live, and celebrate their human rights. So all those questions come after freedom. of Mr. Booker Washington and others. Mr. Booker Washington is hostile to the author, to Dr. Dubois. Their hostility is their approach to racial issues. That one is an African American, and this one is also, both of them are African Americans, but the way they approach the problem of African Americans is an area of contention for them. So let's check what his moves towards suppressing some of the Negro rights. Yeah, he had moves. Washington had moves to suppress the Negro rights. So Negro rights, according to him, were suppressed. They should be suppressed. The Negro should get technical training and know-how and no full civil rights. So, but Dubois believes full civil rights should be given to black people, and also they should be given all types of education. And so uh, he was more liberal than Washington and others of the meaning of progress. So the time he was teaching people who were living freely, he was a teacher serving those freed slaves. So all the issues he has to deal with, all the travels he made in the south, and how he wrote those ups and downs. In the of the wings of Atlanta, he has a lot of ideas on higher education. We'll come to it. Higher education, how should it be? We will come to it in the talented 10 section. Of the training of black men, the same idea. Part 6, how to train black people and help alleviate their problems. So, according to him, according to Juba, there should not be limit, there should be civil rights, they should learn, especially Negroes in the South. There is the Tuskegee University of Booker, Washington. That issue is also mentioned. Of the Black Belt, a place where a lot of black people are living. So in the American South, that is mentioned. So he toured the place and chronicled the plight of African Americans after freedom, as we said. And the talented tenth. This talented tenth issue is really important because he Dubois focuses on identifying a tenth of the population, the black population, as leaders. Because in Africa, he says there were leaders. Leaders were a tenth of the population, so other members of the community would undergo their own tasks. So that is a point he mentioned. Of the question of global fleece, golden fleece, is also a chapter to read. So this first black PhD, he made us think on the miserable land tenure and life situation of the African Americans. I'm just skipping points. Here, relationship between blacks and whites that has been dealt with of the faith of the fathers. Yeah, this on faith, spiritual issues, the Negro Church. The Negro Church, according to him, is the first Negro institution. It's the first Negro institution where discussions are held, seminars are held, organizing is undertaken, and a lot of social issues are held under the Negro Church. So it's a great place. Everything takes place there. So political and economic self-defense proved difficult for the Negroes. So organizing meetings are really critical. So the church was a place. African Americans had religion where they came from, but to meet and to converse was difficult. There was the medicine man, and they were under bondage. They were slaves. So for this, after freedom, just founding a church, organizing themselves is a big question. Of the passing of the firstborn or losing a baby, he lost his baby, buried it in a secluded place. I have a point on that later on from the notes section I took. Of Alexander Cromwell. This one, he was a minister of church. He was denied service giving, and then he immigrated to Africa. He's another African American, an influential one, church service giver. Of the coming of John, this is a story. A young man, two young men, John. Their names are John. So they await his coming from learning. So the black one is John. The white administrator's son is also John. So the black John, after coming back from school, from college, opened a school that eventually gets closed by the administrator. So one day he would spot the other John, the son of the administrator, assaulting his sister. So he attacked him. The story ends that way. The solo songs. This is an analysis, a musical analysis of songs. How did the African Americans sing at work, and the content with certain musical knowledge. It requires musical knowledge as well. So how Negroes sang of their plight, how a group of Negro boys and girls sang, sold their talent. This after their emancipation in Europe and America, and founded Fix University from the proceeds of the tour, musical tour. So folk songs and the messages of are conveyed through folk songs. The talented tenth is really critical. I heard in Ethiopia, in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, a tenth of the, or in the during the monarchy or the Ethiopian Empire, they just allotted a tenth of the population for church service. So leadership service, spiritual service, education. So a tenth of the talented should be educated so that they emancipate, lead the black population, they emerge as leaders. This is the suggestion of Dubois as well. So I think I like it. So others could be carpenters. Carpentry is also touched upon. Others could be cooks. So a tenth could be given. If in Ethiopia, for example, or in Africa, if we educate, if we give a tenth of the population higher education, quality higher education, even he analyzed the curriculum, like the credit hours they take, like is it Latin, Greek, spiritual things, or is it chemistry, or physics, or English. What they learn also matters. So quality education and well thought out curriculum and syllabus. So a tenth of the population should learn and pave the way for the fate of the black population. So higher education is critical. It works even now for Africa. So all those who led the Negro, so he gave us an overview of those Negro leaders from early on, about colleges that were training Negroes. Like there are a few hundreds of Negroes were trained up to in the 18th century, in the 19th century, up to the time of the writing of this book. So we don't have thousands or tens of thousands like today. Mm, yeah. In the afterthought, he has a hopeful plea to God, supernatural interference to the fate of black people. And in the conservation of races, what am I, Negro or American, the one we saw at the beginning also. Race differences and issues. We need race organizations, Negro colleges, Negro